Call to order, Tuesday, December 17th, Muncie Park and Recreation Board meeting. We'd stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chandler Parks.
Here.
James Letton.
Here.
Mark Irvin.
Here.
Shannon Powers.
Here.
Brad Marshall.
Here. Next, we've got the approval of the minutes from the November meeting. If there's no revisions or discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. So we've got the superintendent report with Mr. Carl Malone.
All right, good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Don't have much, but I have a little bit just to cover. So we finished up, I think last month, we talked a little bit about mineralization. So we did complete majority of and all of the mineralization that we had. We had a couple lines we wanted to double check, Emerson Dog Park being one, to make sure we had all the air and water out of that line. So that was checked and completed off. The cleaning that we had left to do at Tui's, that's done. As far as the winter cleaning, we'll still have, spring and things like that to do once the new season begins in 2025 to open up. Christmas tree lights have been installed at our two locations, Cannons Common and Killjacks. So those are up and running, looking good. So I rode by and checked them out during the nighttime. It looks pretty good. So Thomas Park, 2025. We need to install a water line running from the main to the building itself. There may have been a line that was plugged at some point in time during the install of the splash pad. So trying to trace that down, trace it back, hadn't had any luck, and so Chris, our mechanic, did check the building and stated that the building didn't have water. So, and we had water before. So this spring, we're just going to have to go ahead and try to install a new line and run it to the building. Restrooms, Thomas Park, as I know it to be, that's a community development. Gretchen and Adam, city engineers, are working together to install the one at Thomas and maybe even Riverview. I just wasn't sure. I do know Thomas for sure. Westside Park, skate park. There were some discussions about the signage as it relates to the development of the park. I think the mayor's office and the city engineer got together with individuals that had concerns. I think they got that worked out. I think it's just going to go right in the middle of the big sign and still say Muncie Skate Park, but then in the middle there it'll have funded by Community Foundation, who will be doing the install of the shelter area and things like that, as I know it. Unless something changes, that's what I have discussed. And other than that, don't have much. George and I did meet with CRG to talk about playground replacement at Westside, but at this time we're just prepared just to discuss the renderings with the mayor and community development, see if that's possible to get that done for 2025. And that's really all I have for the rest of the year. I think we got through the year. Our office is currently going over some budget stuff for 2025. We'd like to come back before the board and kind of go through line items that we have some questions about, that we want to make sure the board is aware of areas within the budget where we might need some input.
Thank you, Carl. Any questions for Carl? We got him up here.
I do.
what's going on with the lights from Muncie Sports Complex? Were you?
Oh, yes. I spoke with Travis today. They were trying to get out. The ground has been kind of wet. It's been rainy. So trucks and whatnot weren't able to get in on the grass and get those removed. So the scoreboards need to be removed as well as the lights. And as soon as the ground hardens up a little bit, then their plans is to go out and get those removed.
And then where will those be?
They 6 of them will be installed at Westside Park, and then the other 4 or 8 will be at Muncie Central. And I have had some conversation with the AD at Muncie Central in terms of just cost and things of that nature. I think there was some conversation with Muncie Central early in the year. I wasn't involved in that conversation, but we did talk about if we take them down, who's going to put them up, who will pay the cost to have them installed. But those are going at the baseball field at Muncie Central, because I think currently there's no lights there at that playing field.
How about the scoreboard?
Those are going to be stored in our shed. One to go at Westside, one to go at Riverview. I talked with the neighborhood association there. They would like to have one there for kickball between the daycares. And then the one at Heacon Park, I looked at the scoreboard at Heacon. It's starting to fade quite a bit where you can't see the bulbs and the lights. And so we may take 5 out, put up 3, and then put 2 away.
Okay. And then any new news on new playground development for Westside, Heacon, and Altshire?
Yeah, the West Side one is the one that we just did with CRG.
Okay.
And we did get the renderings on those. And we'll bring those before the board in January and have you guys take a look at those as well. We haven't made a selection or anything like that, but there's different designs I think everybody on the board should take a look at and figure out what you kind of like, and then what we can afford it, we'll go ahead and go that route. Altshire, same thing. We have the renderings there at Altshire for that park. I know they've been waiting for a long time to get something done at Altshire Park. I want to say in the ballpark, 100,000, 130 to redo that park. That's with the shelter, mulch, the basketball court included. So,
Okay.
James.
Is the YMCA going to run the pool again this year at Tui?
As far as I know, the meeting we had, they're looking forward to coming back and running Tui pool for us as well.
Probably need to get that agreement and contract on the agenda here, probably the next first few months there in 25.
All right, we can,
How about
actually, we can get it done in January. Just go ahead and have that ready
Yep.
to have discussion and talks in January.
Didn't we have her, or didn't they come in a couple
yes?
meetings ago and they were doing something with the contract, revising something or
Yep.
getting something prepared for us to look over?
I think that was my memory as well.
Yeah.
So,
Correct.
seems like we had that in February, maybe February or March last year, so if we
Okay.
are in that same time window. Any other questions for Carl? Next, we've got the programming and event approval
Thank
with Mr. George Foley. Thanks, Carl. I'm sure we'll see you again.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Just a couple of things I wanted to discuss. The first one is, once again, we're having our first annual Youth Employment and Resource Fair, Saturday, January 4th, and Sunday, January 5th at Minnetrista Museum and Gardens. The first day, we will be taking applications for our summer internship program. We have some people and organizations who are willing to come in and volunteer, and so we'll be doing some in-person interviews with some of the youth. Some of our partners where the youth will be working, they'll be there to do some interviews at spots where they may want to work, and so that'll be part of that day. Also, we will be having a couple of workshops that day. One of them will be financial literacy, which will be facilitated by Northwest Bank. And then we'll be doing some resume building for youth, and we have some different partners involved in that. And then on Sunday, we know that some of our youth, we don't have enough hours and pay some of our high school kids who want to work permanent. So we have some organizations that's going to come in, like Walmart, Fazoli's, and some other ones. They're going to come in, Minnetrist, and do on-the-spot interviews and interview some youth about permanent part-time. And then we'll also be doing a couple other workshops. One will be Dress for Success, which will be facilitated by Rhonda Ward. And then we're going to do an entrepreneurship workshop, which will be facilitated by Andrea Venable Bond, who has her own business and had it for a long time. And also, we got some organizations that'll come in that'll be providing some resources and programming that they do within the Muncie community. One person that we have coming is Miss Ivory Long, who works for the NCAA. So she'll be setting up a table, talking to some of our youth who may want to be athletes and play at the next level at college. And so she'll talk with them if they come by their table and talk about how to be eligible and what's the requirements to be able to play college ball, and just be truthful about scholarships that, may be offered at different levels. And so we'll be having some other groups there, Girls Incorporated. They'll be talking about programming that they offer for young ladies. Jason Hayden, he'll be there from Eco Rehab, Youth Build, advertising their programming and what they offer as far as skilled trade through their organization. So just came up with this idea. When we get calls about programming, a lot of people are saying they don't know what's going on with their youth. And so we figure we would try to do something for a couple of days. Saturday it'd be from 10 to 2, Sunday from 1 to 5, and just give parents and kids an opportunity to come in and find out what their kids can do as far as programming in the community, but then also apply for our internship program, and then we can start that process early in 2025. So we're looking forward to that, excited about that. Minnetrista gave us a really good deal to use the building. We wanted to thank them for that. And also like to thank, we had 2 sponsors for the events, one of them being IU Health. And I gave the board a spreadsheet of what the sponsorship they gave us, what we'll be using that for the employment fair and for the summer program. And also Northwest Bank is helping sponsor the event. So we just want to thank both of those organizations for sponsoring that event. Lastly, I went to the IYI Kids Conference in Indianapolis a couple weeks ago, down in Indianapolis. So I was blessed with a scholarship to attend and stay there for a couple of days. Really enjoyed the conference, made a lot of connections, found some resources for some of our programming. And I think the biggest thing I drew from it was how to get parents more engaged with their youth and programming within your city. So whoever sponsored that for me, I want to thank them for putting my name out there and give me a chance to meet some people and get some resources for Muncie Parks and Recreation.
That's great.
That's great.
Thanks. And that's all I had as far as programming. Any questions or concerns from anybody?
You're doing a fabulous job. It's getting better and better every year.
Thank you. Appreciate
for your hard
that.
work.
Thank you.
Any event approvals?
No, but I did wanted to give an update on the baseball. We Superintendent Malone and myself, we are meeting with Ken and John on Monday by Zoom to talk about how we can come up with a solution for Game Bridge and the scheduling. So we'll be back at the table with that contract in January. And I did tell Mr. Anderson that that the board requests he provide security for the baseball. He said he would provide security for that.
Any other questions for Mr. Fuller?
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we've got the Prairie Creek report.
Good evening, board.
Hi.
So I'm just gonna update you guys on a few things. The piers are kind of coming slowly. We only have 3 guys out there right now. Not just that, but we're moving them with boats now. So there's some safety issues that have been addressed. When we're doing the wooden ones, we wear waders. That's not so safe on the boats if they fall in. That's a concern. So we've been working with the sailboat club. We're gonna try and plan some training, work with them to get some better training for the future, because we need something set up like that. Probably some equipment, maybe harnesses. So we've been struggling with that. Our boat has been broke down. We just had to get that fixed to move the piers. So that's been a slow process, but the guys have been working really hard. In the office, we have all the campground leases done and probably 4 to 6 of the floating piers done. We have started sending a lot of those out. We are still working on which ones could get put in new floating piers next year. So some of the first numbers in the campground, we aren't sending those leases out yet because we don't know if those are going to be new piers or not. So just be patient with us. We'll know pretty quick. So all the ones that were floating before, we are sending those out. It's going to take some time to get those leases done anyway. So once those are done, hopefully we have an answer to go forward with those. We have also, I had reported some lighting outages around the park. It's pretty dark. I think that allowed for more security issues. So Indiana Michigan Power came out, and they've been out there for 2 weeks. They said they hadn't had any reports of the lights being out since like the 70s. So we are currently at 35 lights that need to be replaced. It's so bright outside the office now that a spider set off the alarm inside the office the other night, because you could see it. But they have to replace a bunch of pools as well because they are old and they're considered poisonous. So they have to dispose of them differently. So they're going to be out there for the next month.
Wow.
Next year, it's going to be pretty lit up. I think that will help a lot. So that's what we have. That's pretty much what I have to tell you guys. We have the Christmas event that's open to the public on Friday. That's going to be, is that 6 to 9? 5 to 8. So me and Carly have been working really hard on that. We're pretty excited about that. It'll be our 2nd year doing that.
The lighting in the poles, is that a Prairie Creek expense, or Indiana
That-
Power cover some of that?
They cover it.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the lights themselves?
Yeah. Our bill will probably go up now, though, since we do have lights that haven't been on for
Yep.
40 years. So
Do you know approximately how many lights are being replaced?
35.
Oh,
is
that's
what we believe.
total?
Yeah.
Okay,
A lot. And I don't even think he's made it to the southwest side.
okay.
So, but he's got the north and all the east side taken care of.
That's great.
Yeah.
You mentioned there some struggles with the floating piers.
Yeah.
The wood piers, how are they coming along getting those out?
I'm not really sure about that. It looks pretty good, but I know that most of our time has been spent on trying to get that boat repaired. And just with 3 guys, sending 1 to town, we can't do anything with even taking pools out of the floating piers that hold them down. Once one person's gone out of 3, it really slows a lot down.
When are they typically taken? Oh, like fall, early fall?
Yeah, we start as soon as if they're both boats are off of like a wooden pier, we start calling them and asking if they're going to be bringing them back out before the end of the season. So even before a season's over, if we've seen that 2 people on those piers have already taken their boats out, we call them, and if they're not coming back, we start taking them out then.
Okay.
So we called a lot of people and got a lot out pretty early.
Seems like it's not uncommon for that to roll into January on pulling
It's
those out.
not. No, it's just a little bit
Yeah.
harder this year, just with the changes and needing a boat and then the boat breaking down and just having to learn how to go from something they've done all this time to a new the new piers. It's a whole new process. It's not at all like the wooden piers.
Any other questions for Tawny?
I do have 3 events for approval. If you guys don't have any questions.
Move right into events.
Okay, so they're all from the same group. It's the USA Bassin. It's a bass tournament. So they'll all be the same. They're just different dates. They've been out there for years. We've never had any issues. All they ask, they bring their own tables, but they ask for a little area around the boat launch. They set up tables and weigh the fish, I believe. But they're not asking for anything. They want 25 boats for each event to be allowed to go in. They do pay to let those boats in, but they just want that little area, and they want you guys to know that they'll be there.
What's the dates on those?
The first one's going to be May 24th from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m.
You got the others too?
Yep, it's going to be June 21st, 5 to 3 p.m. These are all Saturdays. And then the last one's going to be August 16th from 5 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Any questions about the USA Bass Fishing events?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. We've got a few items on old business. We've got the Prairie Creek rates update. I don't think we've got any items there. We kind of reviewed that last month and the month before, and I think we're going to hold steady on those. We made a decision to table that until we have a better vision and plan. I know another item we're going to have on the new business is talking about the working foreman and leadership out there, so we'll kind of discuss that a little bit too, and that is a good place to get them involved in. The one we do have is the leases and the rates, or excuse me, the rules. So we've had the rules kind of out for revision and review for a couple meetings. I know in our October meeting, we fielded some feedback from Friends of Prairie Creek, some other guests in the audience, made some revisions from that. I think the board has seen all of those. I don't know if we've got any further discussion or questions regarding those. So a lot of it was clarification or minor changes from previous years. Probably the most significant one that we had actually adopted earlier in the year, but needed to solidify in the rules was regarding one dock per individual. So that'll be part of what Tawny's working through this year as well. There's a few individuals that had multiple docks, and she's working on making sure those people get notified and make proper accommodations for that.
When you say that, what does that exactly mean?
So I guess I'll flip through here to page.
It just means that they're going to lose.
Page 9, yeah. So no more than one dock shall be leased in one individual's name. So if they have multiple docks, they're not eligible to renew those for next year. Now, talking to Tawny, she did, we really hadn't had an established policy on when the dock switch stopped. So before that had kind of been a rolling cycle and you could switch your dock at any time. Tawny has set the standard that stops at the end of the year for this year. So with adopting this rule, that's January 1 on the switch. So they've still got 2 or 3 weeks here to make adjustments if they need to transfer their dock to whoever that may be, their fishing buddy, their aunt, their uncle, however they need to make accommodations for those multiple docks and individuals' names. So dock still has to be registered to the boat owner and follow all of our procedures we had in place previously, but Like I said, we adopted that rule in the spring, so that's not new or anything that we're springing on people here short notice. So that was the major one. We did add some rules detailing some of the things at beach and windsurf, which were some of the ones that Friends of Prairie Creek provided some feedback on. We did add some additional rules regarding the trails, specifically the equestrian trails and the multi-use trails that we just didn't have any definition in our previous versions. So those were probably the most significant changes that were in there. Any questions or discussion?
I don't think I have any discussion as of yet, but on this first page, I just wanted to make sure that the park opens at 5 a.m. or 5 p.m.
That is 5 a.m.
Okay.
That is a typo, so I'll get that updated. And that matches,
It's on the second page, it's 5
Yeah.
a.m. I just wasn't sure which way.
matches city parks
Okay.
as well. And that's a city ordinance.
Okay.
Good catch.
And then windsurf, somebody has to be, a camper has to be with them to,
So windsurf section, it's a pretty short section there, so I can read through that. Leaseholders must be physically present for guests to access windsurf beach area. So that'd be for the pier holders. No animals other than service animals permitted. Service animals must be cleaned up after. Windsurf beach is for non-motorized watercraft access and must be given the right-of-way. Windsurf docking is for temporary use, and public beach is the only designated swimming area.
okay,
So yeah, that's saying that it's, that is the designated non-motorized launch site. So those individuals have access there, and then leaseholders and their guests at the windsurf. Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'd move approval.
second?
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Nikki, I think you've got a copy of those. If not, I'll make sure to send that again, and then we can get that updated on the website too for those. Tawny, did you have any additional lease changes or alterations? I know most of that was based off the rules and discussion we had there.
No, just as a reminder, the only thing that was changed was that the piers, or the boats tied up to the piers, it needs to be marine grade, because it ruined, marine grade rope,
Yep.
sorry.
So that, we had some issues this last year. We had a lot of creative methods of attaching boats to the piers. Some resulted in damage. So just specifying that needs to be marine grade.
Yeah.
Now, that's a pretty wide swath, and
Yeah, I
a
do
lot of
believe,
things qualify for that.
yeah. So I believe that was approved a month or two ago.
Yep.
But just a reminder, that was so it's not damaging these piers, because once they're damaged, like you can repair them, but they're not going to be the same. Again, they're not going to last. It's pretty much just to keep these in good condition for a while. We don't want them ruined within the first couple years. But there is a lot of options for marine grade out there. If you're putting on chains, there's no pull to it. So when that water comes and goes, or if the water company's draining that water, it pulls those cleats off and it strips it, and you can't really repair that. So
Thank you, Tony. Any other old business to discuss? I did have one in my notes about the Tilpen project update.
Okay,
I don't have any significant update on that, but I did see that our quarterly update is due. So hopefully when that comes through, we get a copy of that.
well, at the Friends of Tui Park, for the Dream for the Future of Tui Park
Yes.
event that we had, Phil from Flatland? Well, we had a meeting to talk about Tui Park last week. And I asked him how it was going with Till Pond. He said they're still waiting for permits from the state.
That's where I thought it was.
So that's where Till Pond is. So this is very normal, though, waiting for these permits. But they're ready to go. Just a matter of the state moving forward. And then is it okay if I give or did you want to add on to that, to Till Pond?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Any other old business to discuss?
So we, it was myself, Heather Williams, the two, Dave and Phil from Flatlands, and Dan Renauer and Gretchen Fields from the YMCA. We met at Ball State last week. George was at the conference, so I guess I represented the board. We were talking about ideas for what we would like that entire complex to kind of look like. So we had a map out, and we were just put a thin piece of paper over that and some ideas of where we would like maybe some amenities to go, and we were working through those ideas. Nothing's concrete, but we're going to take those ideas and have another community forum in January at some point. We'll announce that to get more community feedback on those ideas. What else do I want to say about that project? Yeah, so we also talked about maybe the ORLAP grant as being a good funding mechanism, and discussing also the bathhouse and where that is in the grand scheme of things, what we do with that building. And we also discussed perhaps changing the parking and the flow of parking in that area, because there's also going to be a public trail that connects Ball State to downtown that goes through Tui Park. And, what's that going to look like? So, yeah. So we also reviewed the feedback from our community forum at Tui Park, or at Tui Pool, and what does the community want that to look like in the future, the pool itself. And a lot of the feedback was very similar to what was in our 5-year master plan. They'd like to see a playground, some botanical gardens, flowers, some more aquatic amenities, and then a lot of programming. They'd like to see more programming options at the pool for the community. So,
Thank you, Shannon, for that update. Any other old business to address?
I do as well. We unfortunately came very close. We made it to the final round, but the IU Health Community Impact Grant was rejected. I guess no other way to say it. It was rejected by their grant committee. So we are going to reassess and possibly make some changes to make our application stronger, and reapply next year for the workforce education programming, to expand that to be all year round. We're also going to get some specific feedback from them, which I think is invaluable. It's not a lot of grant agencies give people feedback, so I think that's a positive for us as well. And then we also planned on applying again for the 21st Century Learning Center grant as well, because we were extremely close to getting that grant as well. And we do have feedback, so if anybody wants to look at that, that would be great. So
Thank you, Shannon.
that's where we are with grants. And then, George, do you want to talk about our grants that are pending with NPRA or any of, are you want me to, or, okay.
We're waiting on the word on the Pacer Foundation grant, which will redo the basketball court at Hegan Park, and with the lighting, we should get an answer by the end of December. So next month, we should be able to let the board know how that decision goes. And then we did apply for a grant through Musco Lighting, which will be for $100,000 for us to do lighting, also at Hegan Park. Dr. Powers, myself, and electrician, we had a Zoom meeting with them yesterday just to answer some questions, give some more information and specs about Hegan Park and what goes on. And so we did share with them that the lighting was important, not just for basketball, but just for safety reason. We're doing more programming out there, National Parks Day, and we do trunk or treat. And so we didn't have very much lighting the last time, so safety is also a concern out there. So that meeting went pretty good, and they said we should get an answer on that by the end of January 2025 on that grant.
Thank you, George.
Yeah. So if we do get both of those grants, then we would have a brand new basketball court and new LED lighting, and possibly if there's money left over, then we can light up the baseball and softball field right there as well,
That'd be great.
which would be awesome. And then there's one other piece. We are going to be partnering with Ball State University's Healthy Lifestyle Center to provide exercise programming at McCullough Park starting in January, 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, mid-January. There'll be, and all the classes are free to the public. There'll be a chair yoga class at 12:30, and then a Zumba class at 1:30, and then a strength and conditioning class at 2:30. So. That's
How are
awesome.
they, how are we getting this out to the community and specifically that neighborhood?
So we're going, George is going to promote it via flyers and social media.
Okay.
We're just waiting for, all the approvals are there. We're like just in the next few days, we'll be able to start, the big promotional push. So, but that's all been approved, so I can say that.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. The other old business item that we need to talk about a little bit is our 5-year master plan. I know there's been some groundwork on that, and that'll continue here through the spring. That's something we'll need to really hit hard and heavy next year. I think one of the things we want to look at is one of the big pieces there is having community feedback and having public meetings. So I'd like one of our meetings early spring,
Okay.
maybe a March meeting, for us to delay our formal board meeting to 6:30 or 7 and have a public meeting regarding the 5-year plan at 6 o'clock. So we can have some discussion of when might fit, because that'll turn into a little bit of a longer meeting by the time we have that planning session before our normal scheduled meeting. So kind of just mark your calendar for that.
Okay.
Certainly, if there's anybody in the community that wants to be involved in that 5-year plan, reach out. I know George and Shannon have carried the weight so far, but we definitely need some other involvement on that.
If I could speak real fast, we do have some interest from the Muncie Action Plan. They would like to have some input, and we've been to some of the healthy lifestyle meetings, which is ran by IU Health and John Disher, and some of those people that attended, they like to be on that committee. And so I do have a list of people, of names, signatures, email addresses, and phone numbers. And so Shannon, and I think Mr. Strange is going to help us again with the 5-year plan. So we'll be working with that soon.
I don't know what Carl said, but Larry called me. He's like, I'm interested.
Good,
So-
good.
Yeah. Good. And we've been collecting data. We have a 5-year master plan survey out there.
Yep, yep, so that's still
Oh,
out
that's
there.
awesome.
That's still open for people to fill out more information. I think last I saw it was on our website and also on the Facebook and some of the social medias out there, so. Any other old business to discuss? See none, we've got a few items of new business. Not on our agenda, but want to get him up here, is we've got Mr. Jacob Collins with a Eagle Scout presentation for us.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Are you guys able to hear me fine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's different from when I'm sitting down. My name is Jacob Collins, and I'm currently a Life Scout with Troop 39. I'm currently also searching to get my Eagle project done. My goal for today is to inform you guys about what I want to do, as well as seek for permission to build a Gaga pit in Storer Park. So to clarify what Gaga, well, it's Gaga Ball technically. I grew up with it being called Gaga, but I digress. So Gaga is a game that came from Israel in the early 70s. It's also a very companion, unifying game, and it can be played by various different ages. Typically, first grade level to above, you should be able to play it. The game itself begins with everyone touching a wall, and it is a hexagon shape that the pit is. And everyone touches a wall, and the ball bounces 3 times, and that's when everyone can go. Your goal is to be the last person standing, which essentially you do that by not getting hit below your knee by someone else with the ball. This also allows for a lot of different play styles, so it can show some kids' creativities as well. And while this pit would, the Gaga Ball pit would serve as my Eagle project, there are actual benefits to this for the community. I had spoken to George and Carl, and they had talked about how there's a church group that has some youth that are nearby, and that would be a nice addition for them as well. For myself, the reason why I know about Gaga was because I went to St. Mary's when it was St. Mary's and not Michael's, and they had a Gaga pit, and I really enjoyed that game a lot. So I think it would be a nice addition for the community. I also went and spoke to Ryan Ellsworth. Yeah, okay. And he had shown the plans for the blueprint or the construction plans for the park itself. And I did speak with him, and he had a spot in mind within the park. It's kind of like a half crest, and it's going to be towards the end of one of the crests, end of the points. Also, this pit, to explain it a bit more, it's closer to a platform and then a pit. So it's not in the ground, it's actually above ground. So there will be steps going up to it, but we'll also have a ramp, so that way it's ADA compliable. And below it, so that way we don't have anything growing, like any weeds or anything like that, we're gonna have visqueen and gravel on there, which the parks did say they would be willing to provide gravel as well for us. And with any sort of cost, other than the gravel that they had mentioned they would provide for us, it would be out of my pocket and as well as my father's, to be frank. but I do plan on selling like Pizza Hut peelers, which is just a little fundraising thing within Pizza Hut to raise some funds for that as well. To talk a bit more about the pit, again, it is a hexagon shape, and what we're going to use with it is pressure-treated wood. Forgive me, I had the dimensions right here with me a second ago, but it's going to be about 20 feet in diameter, and the walls themselves are going to be about 32 inches high. I had the dimensions for the wood, but and we're also going online. There's for the ADA door, so that way people are able to actually get in there. There's a site online called gagaball.com. They specialize in it, so we're getting that from there. They also have hinges that last longer, or braces is what they call them. And those are made out of metal, and those are green as well. And they'll just go ahead and keep it lasting longer. And according to Lowe's, with the pressure-treated wood that we have, it should last about 10 years. And then something that I probably should have mentioned a little bit earlier in this, this Gaga pit will also serve as a memorial for one of our passed away scouts, Calix Good. So Calix, just to talk about him briefly, he was a very friendly kid, and he loved to give hugs to everyone, and he would always love to play Gaga. So I wanted to do this in honor of him. So there will be a plaque in memory of him as well on the pit. Well, on the steps up to the pit.
Yep.
Other than that, I don't have a whole lot more to say. I'm open to answer any questions that you guys have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jacob. I know you mentioned Ryan there. I don't know if everybody on the board knows. That's is he the president of the neighborhood association over there?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So he's in. Jacob's engaged with the neighborhood association. He's been in communication with Carl, so he's done some legwork here on the front end.
Which park is that?
Store Park, forgive me.
Can I ask you why you chose store?
Because I knew it was starting to get developed a bit more, because it was an elementary school, right?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, I knew it was going to be developing soon, and I thought it would be a bit easier than doing a different park. For a little while, I was going to see about going to like Mars Meadows and doing that, because Calix lived in Yorktown, but there were like 3 different Gaga pits like very close by, and I was like, oh, that's probably not the best.
What stage is store at in their development? Is that something that he can implement now?
I think so. They've been working through the project there. I know Jacob indicated he had reviewed the plans and worked with the neighborhood association, so I think that is a good site for it. I don't know of any others we've got at parks right now, of our parks. I know there's some others around the city.
We got one at Westside,
Yes.
and so we got one at Tui.
Yep. Yep.
I think that's going to be a great addition to the park. My children love Gaga Ball, especially my son. So
I love it too.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Jacob? Excellent. I would entertain a motion for approval and support of him moving forward on his project.
so moved.
Second?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much, Jacob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One other thing, forgive me, I don't have my actual paperwork for the Boy Scout side that I have to get signed.
Okay.
However, I will have to get signatures. So if I could get anyone's contact information to,
Probably passing it through Nikki will be the best way.
Okay.
The park's website, and then she can make sure either Carl signs it or if the board signs it. Either way, we can make sure we get that for you.
okay,
So,
thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good job.
Yeah.
Other new business, we talked about the Westside skate park signage. Any other updates or anything relevant to that?
Yes. I just wanted to say that we will bring the information in terms of the rules on the signage before the board, have everybody take a look at it before we have it posted at the site itself. Like I said, conversations, you got groups out there, other groups, skate groups, and they got their rules. Then you got rules that we have from other parks. So we can bring those rules together up underneath, and then you guys can vote on if you think something else needs to be added or if something needs to be taken off, like pets, dogs at that particular location. You know how,
We did that last meeting. Didn't we have a,
I'd sent out the email, but we hadn't
Okay.
discussed it in a meeting.
right,
I certainly had some questions there. I know that's still in development. I am by no means an expert at
Right.
skate parks, so that is something we'll probably need to get some additional support. I can't think of our gentleman's name that was your intern. He may be a good resource as well,
Yeah,
Caleb, to understand what those mean and what we're trying to accomplish there.
right. So I just know that the bringing the animals to the park itself, they're going to come with the owner.
Yep, and how we
And then-
manage those.
And how we handle that and how we deal with that. So if we can bring those rules before you and then have something in writing before we get the sign actually designed and put in place.
Yep.
do you think that maybe our next meeting, we can also talk about our, where we are in terms of leadership with Prairie Creek and what direction
Yes.
admin wants to go?
That was next on my list. We're going to
Oh,
talk about
okay.
that.
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh, we
Yeah,
are?
yeah.
Okay.
that was next.
Okay. So, I have been talking with HR in reference to setting up applications and going through and setting up interviews. Me and Nikki had a conversation today, and George as well. Talked to Brad a little bit too. A lot of outside interests, and people have access in reference to what's going to take place. And so HR is there. That's what she's there for, to go through those apps, and then we'll start the interview process like we do anybody else, and then just try to see who's the best fit for, I know we have 2 positions within the parks. But that's the process as I know it to be.
Yeah, so on that same line, as we know, I think most of us know, we did have a resignation out there at Prairie Creek. That individual took a different role. So that opened up the position that was called either working foreman or assistant superintendent. That term is kind of used interchangeably,
Yep.
which was a little confusing in my digging into this topic. So that historically, in the recent history, has been paid from the General Parks Fund. So it's technically a city employee that we had as the working foreman at Prairie Creek. The discussions I had with Dan and Carl, my personal opinion is we still need somebody in charge of Prairie Creek, that's their responsibility. Tawny and the team's done a great job, but a lot has fell on her shoulders in the last couple of months, last year or so. But allow her, give somebody that is in charge of Prairie Creek. But we've also identified that there's some need and some opportunities in the city parks. So one of the ideas that's been presented is having a shared type role, be that 2-3 day split, Prairie Creek and city parks, with their responsibility being Prairie Creek as the head final decision maker, but still being able to support Carl and George and Nikki in town as well. I think that's something that the board probably needs to discuss and review some more about the direction of that role and how we utilize that in the parks. Yet again, my personal opinion is I think you could have both jobs. I think you could have a working foreman in town, and you could have an assistant superintendent at Prairie Creek. That's not budgeted today. That's not budgeted for 25.
Yeah.
But I think that's a discussion we can have, is how we move forward with our growing programs, and the additional work that's been put on George and Carl and some of the other daily operation, how we manage all that.
the timing could be real good too, because that could be an important part of the 5-year plan.
Yeah, I think that plays into the 5-year plan, certainly would play into our forecast and our budget into '26, and moving forward, how we structure the Parks Department, the leadership.
And if I could add to that, that's in 4 to 5 years. So you can see the growth at both parks from when we started. And so with growth, you have to look at staffing as you move forward. So this would be a good time to have conversation with city council as well, and as well as the city, as we get personnel in place to keep us going in the right direction.
Any questions or kind of discussions on that topic? I think that's, I know I talked to a few of you this week, but not everybody, and wanted to get it in front of us. And really, we talked tonight, we talk in January.
Will that be on our agenda in January?
I can have that on the agenda.
To
What's,
discuss?
what's the timeline in terms of hiring this person?
The position is open and posted, and I think they're working on having interviews here in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
And I talked to the HR today as well, understanding, and that's something that they're going to express in the interview, is that this is kind of a moving target. Historically, yet again, it had been focused at Prairie Creek, but there's a need in the city parks as well, and it is a line paid out of the general fund. So that's whoever we hire, we'll know that in advance. So if the job description changes a little bit at the direction of the board, they're aware of that as they're coming into the position. But I don't think they would have had to include the board in that decision. I mean, that's a Carl and an HR role, but I think it's good for us to kind of have a vision to help support them to say how we want that to operate, and have that discussion to really support them.
And really what we talked about was the need at both parks, and you kind of alluded to that as well. The working foreman, as we see it, and then the actual work that needs to be done at Parry Creek. And how do we do that within the budget that we're currently working up underneath? That was the can we get 2 for 1 type thing. And so we don't know. We're just we're brainstorming right now just to see if it's possible. Maybe we can do it. If not, we can entertain changing it back to the way it was and seeing if that works as well. But it comes down to money. You definitely got to have some funds in there to make some things happen. So maybe we can get some blessings that way too.
I also think that with the office manager position at Prairie Creek, if those tasks have changed over the course of the year, if there's been more work added to that position, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus before, maybe that needs to be looked at as well and compensated. If there's only going to be somebody out there that's a foreman 2 days a week, then the office manager should be compensated because they're doing, more work.
Right.
So.
Any other questions? That is all I had for new business. Any other new business? Events or other action items from the board? Events or action items from the public?
Just one quick one. As everybody know, we're constantly having a rise in gun violence around the country. We just had the one at the school in Wisconsin. And so I've been in conversation with a couple individuals around the city, and we've had a webinar just last week with a couple of professionals around the city as well. And a couple of our schools have had some call-ins on guns in schools, and they did a sweep through the lockers and didn't find anything. but the fact that we still have the notion that there's a gun in a home, a gun at school, a gun in a backpack, and then eventually a gun at the park. And so it's all of our concerns and business to try to keep everybody safe in our city. Violence can hit us anywhere within our city, in our own neighborhood. And so I just wanted the board to know for 2025, there's going to be a big push from the community to talk about how do we support the schools and how do everybody stay safe. And so I also attended another training in Indianapolis about a month and a half ago at North Central High School with a judge from the Juvenile Justice Center there in Indianapolis. So he's willing to be a phone call away to help give us some resources as well. And so from a park standpoint, as we try to grow kids and bring kids to our park, the last thing we want to have happen is something happen. So we can educate, and then tell our story. So that's going to be our movement in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Oh, yeah, and
I thought Nikki was going to come out of her seat on that one. I don't see any names on our list. We got anything, Nikki? Nikki, anything else you want to say?
Or anything?
All right. Nothing else. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.